Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead, and agricultural meteorologist Greg Solier is back with us today on this Friday. Welcome, Greg.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Nice to be with you here on this finally Friday, last Friday of the month of August. And as we have been talking about, still lots of summertime to go around here, both meteorologically speaking, although we get ready to roll the calendar into Western, at least meteorological autumn this September 1st. But boy, if you wanted to get some additional growing degree day unit action, some dry time where we need it as well, and a pattern shift across the West, we're going to talk about that here over the next few minutes. Maybe a more welcome weather pattern for a lot of the nation going forward here for the last few days of August and into September.
Very good. Well, your slides are up. Give us the details.
All right, here we go. Off to the races with the visible satellite picture. You can see on the western flank an increase in cloud cover. That's helping to diminish wind, which has been helping to fuel the fire situation across the west and northwest. We'll talk about that in a little bit greater detail in just a minute. But the Plain States and much of the Corn Belt in tip-top shape. A couple of showers noted through the far northern plains and parts of the upper Michigan region and sections of the southeastern states. The upper wind flow still has the hot, warm ridge over the southwestern part of the country, denoted by that closed circulation around the H, and still a little downstream troughiness into the eastern states, keeping the weather a little showery across the mid-Atlantic into the northeast New England. Any additional rainfall through the Carolinas and Georgia is welcome, certainly to say the least. And outside of a couple of sprinkles into the lower and eastern Great Lakes region later this afternoon, high and dry with a very comfortable readings. This time of the year, you tend to, with wetter grounds, keep an eye on fog, and we've had some patches of that over some of the weather areas of the Midwest, late night, early morning for an hour or two at daybreak, and that has been it. Hopefully, some folks were able to get out and see the lunar eclipse that is yesterday evening. Saw it on a nice southeastern horizon evening around here outside the weather office window. Did not stay up past 11 o'clock, well past my bedtime, but people say it was a pretty spectacular sight nonetheless. High pressure over the Plain States, the Great Lakes, and much of the Corn Belt areas. And we can see a little more configuration to some of the isobars across the west that denotes a frontal boundary. Still some lingering heat, a lot of it actually through the southern plains and southwestern states. And that heat is on the move, by the way. We're going to, what we say, flatten the hot ridge. The dome of high pressure elongated across the southeastern half of the country. So right off the bat, that may be putting in the back of your mind, well, there's still some summertime to go and a late maybe season heat wave for some parts of the not only southern plains, but sections of the Corn Belt going forward. Beautiful morning across the Midwest, back into the plains. Any moisture chances are into the northern plains where we need it. We'll take a look at the drop monitor in just a second. And again, maybe a few instability sprinkles out of the northern and eastern Great Lakes region this afternoon and evening time. And you can see some of those showers up across North Dakota and some radar returns, but that's not a mid-level cloud out of the rest of the Corn Belt. A couple of sprinkles in northern Michigan and some shower activity into sections of the southeastern states. So it goes with, again, a very quiet weather pattern across the middle part of the country with high pressure in control. But there is a pattern shift expected to get underway into the northwestern reaches of the country. And we need certainly more rain. We'll take a look at the drop monitor, and this drier spell and heat-related spell over the western and northwestern Corn Belt really has pushed the back 40 towards maturity, but also worsening of some of the corn and soybean numbers. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. In any event, here we go into the headlines, and generally a very mild weather pattern across a good part of the Midwest, the Corn Belt at large. There is certainly some beneficial drying underway over some of the waterlogged areas of eastern and southeastern Iowa. I would think over at Boone, Iowa, as we get the Farm Progress Show going next week, Tuesday, that there ought to have been some pretty good drying conditions firming things up. And those stands, if apart from anything that was related to severe weather, ought to be looking pretty good. So I think those field demonstrations will be all ahead forward. And we'll take a look at the forecast out there going forward as well later on in the get together here. So again, the drought conditions are the story in the west and northwestern Corn Belt. Really, Ankeny and Boone and Des Moines is the dividing line, north and west. Incrementally so, you run into the dryness and drought east and south, you're in good shape or too much of a good thing. Matter of fact, soybeans right now are poor and very poor at about 30% in the parts of eastern North Dakota, 24% through eastern sections of South Dakota. That is more than double the national average. So there is a lot of hurt going on as a result of this through the upper Midwest and sections on westward. Actually, outside of maybe areas west of Rockford and south of Carbondale, Illinois, About over with over the eastern Corn Belt, with the exception of, again, Wisconsin and Michigan, those northern areas. And we've seen some improvement through Michigan, notably, but very much a dry setup over the upper Midwest. I got to keep an eye on that going forward. Typically, El Ninos, even a weak one, means it's a limited snow season through the northern plains and upper Midwest, put into the fact that it's going to be a strong one. We'll see what transpires, maybe a little farther north on the jet stream pattern with winter storminess in mind, but there may be an absence of any organized moisture even going forward after what we get into the fall season around here. Coming up this winter. Anyway, temperatures on the plains of the story, they're down considerably, but still pushing 100 in some of the key livestock areas of Oklahoma and Texas. Temperatures are still above average and will likely surge again in the central and northern plains, but at least the northern plains, upper Midwest, and points westward do have the rain in the forecast as well. Pasture lands are in a world of hurt. Sorghum is hurting, and same with cotton in some of those plain states areas. No surprise there. Drought monitor here, you can see the worsening aspect in all but areas of northern and eastern Kansas, areas around Boone and east and south in good shape. Same with much of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, southward through Kentucky and Tennessee. Worsening has been noted in the Carolinas, down through Florida. It's been a tough rainy season, the lack thereof. And you can see the world of issues going on with extreme to exceptional drought ongoing. But again, typically in the El Nino setup, moisture favors the central and southern plains. Throw a strong El Nino into it. It might end up ultimately being later this winter too much of a good thing going forward. So we'll see what happens there. And we'll keep you up to date, of course. In the southern states, temperatures still above average. They're down from some of the triple-digit readings we saw on the eastern flank of that hot dome over the Delta and lower Mississippi Valley. Still some shower activity. Welcome in through the Carolinas, as mentioned, down through Georgia. And certainly more rain is needed in some of those same Delta areas to help to rejuvenate pasture lands and benefit any immature summer crops. There is Dolly. How ironic. There is the named tropical system, Dolly, out there across the south central Atlantic, moving on westward at about 24, 25 miles per hour. Going to be running into some wind shear, but Hispaniola, maybe Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, may run into some heavier rain and squally weather. And that's about all we see going on in the tropics, with another large dry air mass off the Saharan desert, probably, and some dust included with that, which will preclude any significant tropical storm development in the Atlantic outside of Dolly. That'll be weakening. And although there will be probably a return flow to some increase in shower activity over the the Caribbean Sea and down through Florida and the Keys as well, and what's been a kind of a drier stretch over the past 10 days to 2 weeks. In the West, that is the key, and this is the key to the forecast going forward. Not only do we have that in the West, but you get kind of a downstream effect of a change in weather, and we'll see that materialize over the plains, upper Midwest, and northern plains going forward over the next 10 days to 2 weeks. So significantly cooler air, cloud cover. We're going to moisten up the atmosphere with Pacific moisture and kind of cool the atmosphere from top to bottom. So that helps to generate condensation, more clouds, less wind, and hopefully more in the way of rain versus dry-based gusty thunderstorms, which has been really fueling the wildfire situation across the West. Had some stats here that came in yesterday into the western states. U.S. fires have burned nearly 8 million acres of vegetation so far this year, approaching the modern-day record of about 10.1 million acres set back in 2025, and we approached that number back in 2017 and 2020. So some work to do in improving dryness and drought. And again, typically in an El Nino, California, the Southwest, Central and Southern Plains, beneficial recurring moisture, ramp it up into a strong one. It may get pretty rambunctious, I think, later in the season there, and points on northward. I think folks might be getting a little too lackadaisical and thinking we're going to get through the Midwest and Great Lakes areas and even the northern plains and Upper Lakes region relatively unscathed. I think with the strength of this El Nino going forward, pretty mild, relatively speaking. Not that there won't be any cold air intrusions, but might be a pretty busy weather pattern as we get deeper on into the cooler to colder season, maybe towards the holidays and beyond. There's the Pacific, by the way. 1, 2, 3 systems making their way. I think we're up to K with Karina making her way through the eastern and southeastern Pacific. So a little farther south latitude. So don't think any one of those are going to provide any big weather issues across the agricultural areas of Hawaii going forward. But again, not surprising in an El Nino here. Fires in the west, the critical areas are through California, and into Montana, and those will be getting significantly reduced going forward. That's the outlook for tomorrow. Areas around Redding, Red Bluff, east of there, north of Tahoe, and up into maybe just areas east of the Rogue River Basin of Oregon. So making some inroads with this particular setup as we go through this afternoon. Some shower activity, a couple of thunderstorms, actually rain that might actually reach the ground in the Sierra Ranges and across parts of the northern Great Basin. Pretty quiet weather across the plains and Corn Belt. Some shower thunderstorm activity continuing on down through the Delta and southeastern states. And look at the plume of moisture again through the western states later on tonight and tomorrow. And we will generate a couple of clusters of showers and thunderstorms. And that's kind of a good vanguard snapshot of how weather may play out next week at Farm Progress. These little disturbances, fronts nearby, southern fringe of the jet stream, and we'll be in and out with this aggravating drive Matt Youngman to the apothecary setup where you'll have a late night, early to mid-morning shower or thunderstorm, a break for a lot of hours, and it may come back as the show winds down each day into the late afternoon and or early evening. Small coverages, small chances, tenths to a quarter of an inch anytime you get this stuff going. Don't think we'll get any widespread severe weather, but enough to maybe help settle the dust. We'll put it that way. And despite all the rain, there's probably a need to do that in and around the Farm Progress show site at Boone. So there's the outlook for tomorrow afternoon. Showers picking up across the northern plains, across the divide, either side of that, maybe a couple of showers into the Great Lakes region. And there's these boundaries, again, still stuck at or just north of Boone, even into Sunday. They'll propagate west to east. We'll get into some fairly warm, if not hot, humid weather if we can kind of prevent mixing out the atmosphere of rain cool there. I can easily see us getting pretty close to 90 most days at Boone. If we get some cloud cover, lower sun angle, a little mixed cool air dropping in out of behind any nearby or in vicinity shower activity, maybe mid to upper 80s, and a fair amount of humidity as well, with dew points climbing back in that 65 to uncomfortable 70-degree range with the last of crops maturing and moisture in the ground as well. There's the outlook for the next 48 hours, again, centered over the northern tier of Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. And again, that's good news with dryness and drought in that particular part of the heartland. No real big surprises, nothing to get all worked up about from a severe weather potential over the country here this afternoon. There is going to be an increasing likelihood of hail-producing thunderstorms across the northern Great Basin, Intermountain West, and in the parts of the Dakotas and upper Midwest. And again, don't foresee any really major widespread severe weather outbreaks over at Boone as well. Probably north and west, well north and west of Boone, but other than this garden variety stuff, we ought to be in relatively good order. But again, fair amount of still late season warmth and humidity anticipated. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can see the H that was over the southwest moving into the middle part of the country, into the Ohio Valley, mid-Atlantic region, and in between a little channeling effect. And I wouldn't be surprised we get a little concern that may make the headlines a little something cooking in the western or northwestern Gulf. Maybe a little depression, and then works on northward. That'll be welcome for rain over the Delta and southeastern states, but heads up if you think something may pop in there. And that's 88-degree water down there, close to 90 in the western and northwestern Gulf of Mexico. So that's ripe conditions, light the wind component, and keep the Saharan dry air to the east. And I think there may be something trying to get going out of the Texas Gulf Coast middle part of next week. Otherwise, look at the trough in the Pacific Northwest. Rain cool there, rain actually reaching the ground, significant cooling, and hopefully significant improvement on wildfire containment in the Pacific Northwest. But again, that builds the ridge into the plains and Corn Belt areas, and where the lines are compact, that's where we favor our shower and thunderstorm activity. So Iowa kind of on the southern edge of the jet or the line, we'll put it in those simplistic terms, where it gets arched up in that kind of ridge position. That's where you tend to want to watch shower and thunderstorm action get going late night, early morning, late afternoon, early evening. So again, something close by, enough to keep everybody on their toes over at Farm Progress. Again, the upper pattern, a better descriptive measure of really talking about what's going on in the middle part of the country. So rain chances where we really need them, and where the crop is well advanced. If it's delayed somewhat, no big deal, and probably harvest getting going, actually, by the way, in some parts of the far southern and southwestern Corn Belt over the Labor Day holiday weekend and beyond. 7 days will favor the northern and northwestern, the Corn Belt, northern plains, southern Canadian prairie, the divide, Great Basin, Pacific Northwest, exactly where we need it, and in Cotton Belt country, and down through the regions of Georgia and the Carolinas and in through Florida. Not much to speak of any significance along and south of Interstate 80 in the eastern Corn Belt. So we talked about the rainfall totals shaping up 1 to 2 inches across the upper Midwest, the Dakotas, parts of the southeastern part of the country, and again, a couple of showers for the Great Lakes region. Welcome moisture 1 to 3 inches over the southeastern part of the country, largely dry weather, roughly I-80 on southward, maybe a renegade shower, no major consequence, but temperatures are going to be on the way up. And if you needed still to rack up some growing degree day units, it's certainly coming your way. And again, a significant pattern shift going on across the West. Quick look at temperatures going forward. This afternoon, look at the heat building back out across the Black Hills. It will expand across the plains with upper 80s to mid 90s and low 100s as far north as Kansas, with readings in the 80s to near 90 over the Corn Belt, and then middle 80s to low 90s by the time we get to Monday of next week. And by Tuesday, everybody into the 85 to 90, some spots 95-degree range. These might be a little on the cooler side, denoted around Boone. Wouldn't be surprised again. We get close to 90 on some days, given the right circumstances. So expect some warm to hot and humid weather at Boone. And there is the Thursday out next week outlook of upper 80s to mid 90s. That would be called a late season Labor Day heat wave weather pattern. And we stick around into the warmth around here the next 6 to 10 days from the government charts for discussion and giggle purposes. Off of the Pacific Northwest, ridge over the middle part of the country. Jet stream will keep thunderstorm and shower activity out of the west across the northern plains and across the far northern Corn Belt, and that is 95-degree air as far north as Kansas City, 90-degree air as far north as eastern Iowa and northern Illinois, even at the September calendar date. Go forward on precipitation as well. Generally drier trend. This is actually a pretty good representation through the west and into the northeast to New England, and we expect that drier slot to continue, at least from our estimate, on northward. Next 2 weeks, nothing like fall, still like summertime. Welcome wet weather for the upper Midwest. Welcome cooling in the western United States. And that's about the right idea. Trend towards drier weather, early harvest. Combines will get going somewhere in the far southern Corn Belt. We will need moisture with time in the central and southern areas of the plains, Sarah, from a winter wheat planting standpoint. I think that's in the offing, but still weeks away. Of course, we had our live stream earlier this week. We'll have the next one. I think it's the 22nd. That's what we talked about, I believe.
I believe so.
If that's not the right date, let me know. But sometime here in the mid to late stretches of September on a Tuesday. And that's it on a Friday here from the Weather Office.
Very good. Well, Greg and I will be coming to you next week from Boone, Iowa, the Farm Progress Show. So we'll find a cool spot to give the weather from. Otherwise, we'll be sitting on a bench in the sun, probably sweating, it sounds like, with some humidity and some high temperatures heading that way.
It beats the alternative. I've been at both, at 95 to 100 in Decatur, and trying to tape a TV show, and the director and producer telling you, don't sweat, okay? Versus downpour producing mud everywhere, and everybody's landscape materials floating down the paved roadways in some of these showers and thunderstorms, of which don't foresee that going on at Boone, Iowa. But we'll be dancing around a couple of showers there, 85 to 90 daytime, muggy overnight lows, late summertime as you expect out there in the western Corn Belt.
Very good. Well, we will see you next week, Greg, and we hope all of you tune in and have a great weekend this weekend. Thank you so much.